So, stand or sit as you're able and join us for our opening song. And the songs this morning are Karen Drucker, the ones that you'll sing with, the opening and the closing. And just listen for a refrain and then follow in because it's very easy. By way of opening, I welcome you to Louisville Center for Spiritual Living and invite you with me to begin at the beginning. By breathing individually and together into the space of blessing, gratitude, and finding yourself welcome right here and right now. There is one and only one, and each of us is a center in that one. And we make up the one that is this group, this Sunday morning celebration, where we also welcome Reverend Carole Mahaffey and members of her community that bless us as she blesses us. And I call it good and very good for this time, with gratitude releasing it into the law, knowing it is done to the highest and best of each here present. Thank you, Spirit. I just release it and I let it be, and so it is.
So it is.
Good morning, and yes, Miss Pat is going to light our God candle. Representative of the light of Spirit that is the all that is all. That light is within each one of us, individual, and yet extends out infinitely. One candle extends out infinitely. Light never stops moving. We never stop moving. We never stop creating the light and the consciousness that is Spirit. Thank you, Pat. And so I just want to give you a little bit of orientation to a few differences today. We do have Reverend Carole visiting, and I'll tell you a little bit more about her closer in. We're very excited about that. And I know some of you are noticing, it's rather noticeable that Mr. Lowe is not here today. He's fine, and he is still with us. He had an opportunity today that he could not pass up. So he is literally blessing someone else at this very moment as we speak, and he will be back with us next week. And let's see. Next, we'll have announcements. Mr. Gordon Newton, the newsman. What do we? Newsman.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Okay, we have our joke.
Back behind the mic.
Back up. Oh, back. Weekly announcements, and yeah, I'm the newsman. Okay, now if anybody says, blast it, Henry, I think the dog is following us. Okay, yeah, they do that. You've heard that joke about what does a dog do when he finally catches the car? Well, I mean, I don't know. I just thought maybe you would know. Sorry, it's just one of those, part of the mystery, I guess. Okay, community visioning for LCSL, first Saturday of every month, July 6th, 10 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Telebridge. And Vicki, do you want to say anything more about that?
No, except to say that there is a momentous field around visioning right now because we have the visioning class going on. There are 12 people in that class, and Reverend Carole is actually joining that class. And so it's a beautiful thing. And if you'd like to catch the wave of what that is, come call in on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. It's an empowering process, and I have a feeling, as well as this class is going, that there's going to be another one following. So even if you're not in this class, come see what visioning is about. And then I've already started a list. I had somebody already ask me to do it again. So that's it. And I know the number's hard to catch when it's on the screen like that, but it's the same number for the Saturday call that's always in the update, and you can always call me. Thank you, Gordon.
Okay, thank you, Victoria. Next week, another social Sunday gathering, Sunday the 7th, and Tilly 2. Yeah, that really looks good, guys. That really looks good. And let's see, releasing resistance in a creative process with Vicki Jeter. Again, Miss Victoria.
Yes, and this is a dual slide thing, so let's keep that one there just for a moment. On Social Sunday next week, this is the first time after. We're going to stay till 3 o'clock. There'll be a 2-hour workshop, and I am very excited about this workshop. This is going to be hands-on. We are going to be talking about understanding resistance as a process of flow. Everyone, we speak so much about getting in the flow. This is all about recognizing the flow all through your life, and as you find ways to really see where energy is moving all over the place, then you can learn more about what resistance is, when it's detractible, and when it benefits you. And so we only have the 2 hours, but I'm very excited. So far we have about 7 people signed up for that workshop. And if you could let me know if you plan on coming, because I am bringing some supplies that we're going to be working with, and I'm excited. Oh, and so then that's the other. I have been made aware that that is not maybe the most helpful slide in the whole world. but maybe as people keep looking at it, just do me a favor and trust the process. It's going to be dynamic. That's one of the reasons why I chose that, because we're actually going to be working with the movement of energy and resistance.
That's about like jokes that I get to share with you folks that I don't know what the punchline is either. But you will find out. We heard it here. We will find out in that class. Thank you, Ms. Jeter. Okay, men's group. First Thursday of each month, almost always. Well, I tell you what, we eat a lot of pizza. And I've always managed to take some home for breakfast. So if you know any guy who's just hanging around, on those Thursdays, and you'd like to get him out of the kitchen or get him out wherever, send him on over to my place. Or I think, as it gets closer to this August 1st date, we'll be putting up the new location. It goes back and forth between Steve and myself. So we'll be following that with you. And practitioner of the day, Bev. Bev, do you need to say anything? You're back here, right?
I'd be honored to pray for you, and we're going to be in the shower again today.
The shower.
It worked out really well last time, and I'll be there waiting for you, but it will be turned off.
We can keep our clothes on.
That's true. That's it. I'm definitely doing that, so you can do
Okay.
that.
Come and be cleansed.
And here is our affirmation. So all together, I shall write it on my heart that every day is the best day of my life. Okay, and now this brings us to story time. And it ain't about me, guys. Let's hear it. Who's got a story? And you like, a really big story, a really big monstrous story. that you can't possibly say publicly, but you'll do it anyway one time, right? Just see it as another one of those growth experiences.
Well, it is a great story.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
But-
Let's hear it.
Okay. You want to come up and tell us so people can hear you? Yeah, I'm going to give you this a moment. Well, thank you, ma'am. Hey, this is fantastic, you know. You hold the door open and the flow just comes right on in.
There's a story.
Immediate demonstration.
It's not a great story, but a friend of mine, I'm not going to mention any names, I'll call her Jane. Jane called me and said, I don't know what to do. And this is a real happy-go-lucky person. You'd never know she had any problems whatsoever. But there's something about me that they get me mixed up with the Statue of Liberty. Give me your poor, your tired, and huddled masses. So I said, what is it? She said, well, I was going to feel sorry for myself, but you don't give me time. And I said, she said, I need work, and I'm an older woman, and I need work, and they're not hiring me as PRN very often at the hospital where I work. And they hired some new people. I had to dismiss all that. I had to let that all go, which is not my best quality, letting anything go. Because I have a wonderful memory, good, bad, and indifferent, but I remember everything. So, anyway, the bottom line is I treated for her one time, one day, and she called me later today, and she said, they've called me for work. And in the prayer, I asked that she work more, not less. And she said, I've got 4 days this week. So that's my story.
That's a wonderful story. Last chance, if it's that story, that thing you were never going to tell anybody, now's the time. And I don't think we're going to hear it. But Victoria, I think that's your cue.
It's okay, we're up to a song.
Oh, we have another meeting.
Announcements are definitely.
Oh, the reading, that's right. I'm out of order, I'm sorry. Reading time. Okay.
Today I'm reading from the Essential Ernest Holmes. How much do you think you can demonstrate? You can demonstrate just what you believe you can demonstrate. How much can we see? How much can we accept? How much can we find in our consciousness that is no longer repudiated by our own denials? Whatever that is, that much can we have. The gardener goes forth in faith to sow his seeds. He has learned that as he sows, so shall he reap, that the law works for all alike. We must accustom ourselves to the concept of the impersonalness of the law, the availability of the law, and the mechanical accuracy of the law. If we can conceive only a little good, that is as much as we will experience. We must instill into the mind the fundamental proposition that good is without bounds, good is without limits. Only good and loving kindness shall follow me all the days of my life. That comes from Psalms 23. We must get this concept rather than continuing to think that there is a power of evil as opposed to the power of this good. We experience good and evil because we perceive a presence of duality, of both, rather than of unity, of one. Then knowing that God can work for us only through us, Let us begin to accept today more good than we experienced yesterday, and to know that we shall reap a harvest of fulfilled desires and dreams. The time must come when we shall have left the apparent evil behind and understand there is none. When it shall be rolled up like a scroll and numbered with the things that were once thought to be, but are no more. Let us realize and work with the sound knowledge and perfect faith that as high as we shall take our mark in mind and spirit, so high shall God's outward manifestation in our material world be. And say these things. I expect everything I do to prosper. I enthusiastically accept success. I let good flow into my experiences. I am seeking good in every direction I look. I am looking forward to more good. I am entering into a deeper understanding of life. I am recognizing my union with all people, with all events, and with one God. And so it is.
It is.
And now it is absolutely my pleasure to introduce Miss Carole Mahaffey. She was the founding Unity Minister of Unity of East Louisville, where we were located for a while. She is, you know, there's a beautiful portrait of her in the hallway there, and here she is today. She's been a Unity Minister for 23 years, and founded Unity of East Louisville how many years ago?
17.
17 years ago, founded Unity of East Louisville. And she retired there, and now she's moved to Lexington, and Spirit is calling her forward again to start a Lexington Unity. And so there's a very lot to be excited about. And I just want to share with you too, it's interesting how Spirit plants seeds, because after I wrote my book, I had put a few little threads out there to see if I could be hired as a speaker. And what is the name of the gal, Vernon, who, he might not be able to remember her name. The woman that interviewed us, do you remember her name? She has a very unique name. But she had a startup, and she was looking for speakers. And somehow she drew into the infinite well and dropped both myself and Carole to be interviewed at the same time. And our topic was, what are the distinctions and differences between Unity and a CSL? It was awesome, because we had never actually met each other, but then we said, we are going to be doing more. And so here we are today. And I'm very excited. So her topic is doing what you love, living the life you love. And so I am turning it over.
Without it.
If y'all can hear me, I can do without it.
It's up to you. But you know, I always want to honor those people that have a little trouble hearing. I don't. Okay. Living the life you love. You know, I never know what I'm going to talk about, and then I just pray that God leads me in that direction. What you all need to hear, what I need to hear, and believe me, whatever path I'm on, I'm asking you to go with me. I did that for 23 years in ministry. It hasn't changed. Living the life you love. I can remember, I have a dear friend named Larry Weiss, and anybody here know him? Oh, he was a wonderful person. He's living now in the Carolinas, but one day we were eating lunch, and he said, Carole, he said, have you ever thought about what you want on your gravestone? I'm like, because I'm going to be cremated, but I don't know. And then I looked up at him, and I said, you know what, if I did have a stone, if my kids decide they're going to, put a stone up, I would say, still in love with life. It just came to me about it this morning, is because of what happens when you make the decision to live a life that you love. And what really happens is that you end up raising your own vibration so very high because you're what? You're in love, right? You're in love with life, and everybody around you knows it. And what happens is you not only raise your own vibration, but you raise the vibration of everyone around you. And that, for me, speaks to me, such a wonderful world to be a part of if everybody makes that decision. I mean, my gosh, I mean, just imagine, if you can, what that would be like. And it's a great aspiration. It's a great goal, if you will, or whatever you want to call it. It's a great endeavor to get up in the morning and say, I'm in love with life today, and everybody's going to know it, and to go about your day and see what a huge difference it makes. And I've got a little example here today that I'll share with you about a baby that was born and didn't live but 26 days. And I'm going to give you a two-part proposal around that story, but that's to come. So our mission is to live a life of love and to let love point the way to whatever it is we're called to do that day. I'm a unity minister, and of course she told you that, yeah. And one of the things that our co-founder Charles Fillmore did when he was in his 90s, he was getting up every morning and saying, I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm to do the things that ought to be done by me. He was saying that in his 90s. He really was. And I thought that was fascinating. This is falling apart. It's okay now. I thought it was fascinating. Somebody be 93 years old and just to be having that mindset and that letting his heart lead the way to what it is he's going to do that day that's his by divine right. We're here by divine right, and our divine birthright entitles us to live a life we love. And the master teacher, Jesus Christ, came to earth and said, I came so that you may have life and have life abundantly. But even more important to me is when he said, I am the resurrection and the life. He didn't say, I am the resurrection and life. He said, I'm the resurrection and the life. So what he's talking about is that one life that we're all part of. It's kind of what I call the oversoul. And we're all part of that. So one of the things that I think people have a problem with is saying that they love their life when things happen that are really tough, really hard, really painful. You know, and have we not all had an experience like that? I mean, if you're alive, you're going to have an experience like that that's painful. And what we like to say is that we're going to not love that part of our life. We're going to put it over here, not think about it, try to ignore it, try to pretend that it doesn't exist and all of that. And we're shortchanging ourselves when we do that. Because I can say from my own experience that painful experiences, and as I used to say when I was in traditional Christianity, that drive you to your knees, those kinds of experiences, you end up going inside at a much deeper level than you would have if it had not happened. It's kind of like our wonderful religious right friends say, well, we love the sinner, but we don't love the sin. So do you understand what they're saying? They're taking life and compartmentalizing it. They're saying that they don't like the sin, but they love the person, but they're not going to acknowledge that there's anything going on with sin. Now, let me have a qualifier here, if I may. We don't, in New Thought, talk about sin, because all sin is an archery term that means missing the mark. So that's all that means. It doesn't mean anything else. That's all it's ever meant. But if we miss the mark and we ourselves make an error of some sort, even errors are forward movements. Mistakes are forward movements in life. If you embrace the whole of life, it is. But if you and I compartmentalize and put stuff over here, no, we're not embracing the whole of life. What does the Tao say? All things in life move us toward our wholeness. It doesn't say some things and maybe some things, maybe not. No, all things in life move us toward our wholeness. So today, I'm asking everyone to think in terms of embracing the whole of your life, even the parts that are really difficult, because there's a message in there. And I don't know that I can really go so far as to say, because maybe I'm not quite as evolved as people that say, well, it's a gift. Well, okay, it probably is, but I like to say that it is a lesson for me, that it is something that I'm needing to understand at a deeper level is why it's happening. And, the quality of our life is determined by the kinds of questions we ask and the quality of question we ask. So if I say to myself when I'm having tough experiences, oh, why is this happening to me? That's not an evolved question. It really isn't, and it'll keep you stuck as long as you're asking it. Why is this always happening to me? Well, you're the common denominator, first of all. That's why it's always happening, usually. But I would say this, if you can take your soul's evolutionary path, you would say, well, what's in it for me? What's going on here? What is the message? I like it better to say, instead of it's a gift, that it brings a message to me, this painful experience I'm having, whatever it is. And as long as I go along life's path and ask that question, I'm going to evolve. You can't help but not evolve, because it's an evolutionary question, basically. So the quality of our life is determined by the kinds and quality of questions we ask ourselves. So that's something else we need to pay attention to. Okay. Let's see. Well, anybody here familiar with Walter Starkey? He's a New Thought author, and he may have made his transition. I'm not sure, but I think so. But it's all right. Years ago, 25 years ago or more, I heard Walter Starkey say, it's all good, it's all God, and then he added the flowers and the manure. I'm like, so then I didn't forget it. So what the universe is asking us to do is not to compartmentalize. And then if you don't do that, then you don't end up labeling, because the Christian right wants to label things as wrong but we've got to stop labeling. We've got to. Because as long as we're labeling, we're living in duality, aren't we? If we can just look at it and say, this is part of life. This is the mosaic of life that I'm looking at here. Not something I want to deny or get rid of or just act like it's not there, whatever. So it's important. So I would just ask you, is there some painful experience that you might be moving through right now? And you don't have to voice it, but I wouldn't be surprised if there were several people in here right now moving through something that's really a challenge and really painful. I would suggest that in your meditative and prayer time that you ask the universe to help you embrace it as part of your life, as an important part of your life. I mentioned earlier that one of my favorite sayings of Jesus was the fact that he said, I am the resurrection and the life. And at one point, I was very, very sick. We're talking 20 some odd years ago. I had been hospitalized several times with an undiagnosed lung condition. They could see it, and they could go down and scope it, and they saw it on x-ray. They saw it, but they couldn't culture it out. It wasn't pneumonia, it wasn't TB, they didn't know what to do with me. So at some point, the quality of my physical life was getting pretty poor. And I was lying in my bed and crying, and I had a friend that was coming and staying with me and helping me because I could hardly walk. My shoulders started freezing up. They were treating me like a TB patient. Oh my goodness, my heart goes out to any of those people that take that regimen of drugs, because I thought I was going to die. And this shoulder froze up, this knee froze up, and I felt like I had lead in my lungs, and I couldn't lay because either way was painful. So I'm lying in my bed, and, just tears run down the side of my face. And I said, God, really, this is no quality of life. I mean, if it's time for me to go, let's just do it. I don't want to live like this. Well, I did fall asleep, and the next morning I got up, and I read, and I don't know if it was Catherine Ponder, but anybody familiar with Catherine Ponder? She's a Unity minister and author. Oh, if you want to read a fabulous book, read The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. It changed my life. Okay, so in there, I think she either told a story or said she had done it or something. She said she had written a favorite scripture verse. I sound like some kind of scripture person or biblical person. I'm really not. I don't have anything against it, but there are things in it that I love, and there's things in it I hate. But, as my minister counselor said, there's a lot of axe grinding going on in the scripture, and I agree with that. But I read what she did, and she took these little scriptures and wrote them out on Post-its and put them on her body. So that night, it's a good thing that I live alone, because I don't know a partner would understand this, but I went to bed that night and I had sticky notes all over my lungs and my abdomen. I was going to sleep with all this sticky note stuff. And do you know, the guidance came to me, stop all the drugs, and that I would be fine. And I said, but God, what is it called? Pneumologist. Anyway, the lung doctor. Thank you, pulmonologist that wasn't coming. Screamed at me and said, if you don't take these drugs, you're going to die. Well, he didn't even know what was wrong with me, but he scared the, what out of me. So I did take the drugs. So I said to Spirit that morning, I said, well, if I don't take them, I'm going to die. And this voice, wherever it was coming from, said, no, you will not. I'm like, okay. Within 48 hours, shoulder fine, knee fine, walking around, lung pain gone, all of that, because I don't think it needs to be a scripture verse. I mean, you could have a favorite affirmation and stick it on yourself. But these are the kinds of things I do because I guess you would say I'm kind of childlike. I like to try things. I'm open. I am not closed-minded about anything because I know better. I know that something's being brought to me, a person, some kind of information that is helpful. I know that. Even when it's a person in my face saying I'm less than, I know there's a message there, and so I pay attention. And I think to enter into the wholeness of life, which I'm urging everyone to do, that's how you have to be. You have to be, have that wonder, that childlike kind of wonder. Okay, so here is the story I said I would share with you about this little boy named Liam, L-I-A-M. Liam was the firstborn son of a sweet and caring couple and was born with cardiac complications, which his parents were told would require several surgeries during the first year of his life. At 11 days old, he had his first open heart surgery. Complications arose from that surgery, and 15 days later, Liam's little body gave way and released his soul. And this was on this human plane of experience. Now, we're talking about the human plane, a profound tragedy. But at the same time, it seems that Liam came here for a specific mission, which he fully and completely accomplished. This was Liam's mission. And you ask, how do we know this was his mission? Because the day he passed, his soul spoke directly to his Father, and this was the message he carried. And certainly you'll know after you hear this that he was an old soul. My mission here was to show all of you that love can move mountains. I planted seeds in the garden of love, and that garden is you. Please don't worry about me as I am with God. But please don't forget my purpose here. Life is a glorious thing because of the people we share our lives with. Hold on to one another, be kind to each other, nurture and love one another, and this will please me, as it was my mission to show you love. Well, it didn't stop there. I mean, that's beautiful in and of itself. But this little being opened his heart literally to love. His name, L-I-A-M, took on a new meaning, love I am. Because he awakened in the heart of everyone present in his life of 26 days a deeper sense of love. His parents created the 26-day Love I Am challenge. For 26 days, choose to let only love point the way in everything you think, say, and do. That's a huge challenge. Would you all agree? I mean, I had one of those complaint bracelets at one point. It's called No Complaint, and you wear the bracelet and you switch arms or something when you don't. I mean, mine finally just kind of broke because I switched arms so many times. Okay, here is the thing. Choose only to allow love to point the way in everything you think, say, and do. Choose to live ahimsa. Now, I studied Gandhi and presented a workshop back when I was in active church ministry, and spoke about Gandhi from the platform, I don't know, probably a month. That book was another bit of information that came my way that changed my life because I didn't know about ahimsa. Ahimsa is not only the pledge not to do harm, but it's also the embracing of love in everything you do and surrendering to that. So it's way deeper than just simply not causing harm. Ahimsa means universal, pure, I guess you could call it agape love. Think about it because it'd be a fabulous world. So the two-part proposal in this 26-day thing that his parents came up with has to do with, number one, being reactive about love. And that is if somebody comes along and does something that really is difficult to you. So it's being reactive. And they tell the story about the Buddha, and the man came and he screamed at the Buddha and said all kinds of sort of foul things to him, and the Buddha just stood there and smiled. And he kept doing that, and then finally the man just fell at the Buddha's feet and started crying because the Buddha kept thinking about the love that he wanted to share with this man. I do have a funny story to share with you. Anybody know Jack Boland, who was a Unity minister for years up in Detroit? Well, I wish I could have met him, but he'd already made his transition when I came along. But Jack had a problem with a guy named Garnet. That was his name. And he just drove Jack, the minister, crazy. He did all kinds of things to just aggravate the minister or Jack. And Jack was like, I have tried so many years to try to have love toward this man. He wasn't making any progress. So he used to get up really early and go to the church up in Detroit, and he'd be at the stoplights like at 5 in the morning. He's at the stoplight, and who pulls up beside him? And at that time, Continentals were the thing, right? You remember those big Lincoln Continentals that just went on forever? They were like limousines. So here comes Garnet pulling up beside him in this big old Newtown car, and Jack's going, oh, jeez, and Garnet's waving at him. So Garnet goes on, and Jack pulls on through the light, and he goes, God, are you going to help me with this? I cannot do this of myself. And the next thought he had was, think about your grandchild. He had a brand new grandchild, and he thought about his grandchild, and he said, now think about the love you have for that grandchild. And so Jack's like getting really worked up about the love and thinking about all the fun they're going to have together and all this stuff. And then Spirit said, now switch it really fast over to Garnet. So he did. He had Garnet's face in front of him, so he switched it really fast. And he said it worked. He said every time I would get frustrated with this man, I'd think about my grandkids or somebody I loved, and I'd switch it over to Garnet. So if you've got somebody like that, and you've got a Garnet in your life, try it and see if it doesn't work. Okay, I'm getting close here to finishing. I said, that's the reactive kind of love to practice. when somebody's doing something to you, or you perceive somebody's doing something to you. But we want to talk about the proactive kind of love. And the proactive is when you make the decision, no matter what is going on. A prime example would be if you thought you only had 24 hours to live, 48 hours to live, you know, hypothetically, what would you do? Think about it. You only got 48 hours to live. What would you do? I'd be hitting the phone. I'd be on the cell phone with the buttons going like crazy trying to call people. Would you all agree? That's a good thing. That's the proactive kind of love. It's not somebody yelling at you in your face and you're trying to keep from reacting. That's a good way to get on the evolutionary path. But you want to be proactive about it, and that's a really good example if you get a diagnosis like that. So love is what we are, and let's try our best to embrace the wholeness of life and not really compartmentalize and label ourselves and other people, and to really embrace the wholeness of life. And I'm going to close with a quote from Agatha Christie. And this was the quote that I spoke when I gave my very first service in ministerial school. And I loved Agatha Christie anyway. I loved all of her books. I still love it. And there was a movie a couple years ago, the train thing, whatever it was. She was so fascinating. What she said was, at times I have been despairingly, acutely, something like abjectly miserable in my life. But through it all, I knew quite certainly that just to be alive was a grand thing. Think about that. She loved life, and that's how she came up with that decision, that no matter, she was going to love it. So that's what I say to you. Love it. And when you get your stone, you can put on there, still in love with life, right? Right. That's it. God bless you. Well, I love you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I meant to say that earlier. I'm very honored, and I hope I can come back sometime. Thank you.
It is so much my privilege to have the opportunity to encapsulate that in our meditation. And I invite you to find your own way in your mind and your heart and follow me, letting my words act as your own if it serves. And you can always follow your own spirit as well. Spirit knows about guided meditations, and so we each go where we're led. And in this moment, in the place of there is only love, and love leads my way. Breathe into the wellspring of your journey in that thought. There is only love, and love leads my way. Imagine yourself launching with each unfolding moment being the origin, as each moment is the fulfillment of spirit. Nothing ever happens yesterday, and nothing will happen tomorrow. As we find ourselves grounded at the center of our own universe in knowing there is only love, and love leads the way. with each step on the path being that new, rejuvenated moment, with each step being a relationship between the microcosm within our human selves and the macrocosm that we are the vehicle for. Continuing to trust that as we have the courage to lift up each step, knowing that the light shines in the next new moment as we set it down. We are never alone, never truly lost in the dark night of the soul, for it is all one, inclusive of both the hydrangeas and the manure. Yes, yes, and yes. Thank you, Presence of Life, for this good and so much more. I release it, I let it be, and so it is. Oh, so now we'll have our prosperity offering.
And as you see on the information above, we gratefully accept your credit card, debit card at the back table. We welcome your donation and your opportunity to step into the flow of giving and receiving. That's a part of that power that we are in. So let's say our affirmation together. Abundance is not something I acquire. It is something I tune into, and I am on the right channel. Yes.
Thank you, Deb. We so much appreciate your sharing of your offerings, tithes, and gifts in whatever form they come. This time is in honoring all of our blessings, talents, time, treasures, and financial abundance. I am so blessed. You are so blessed. We are so blessed. Thank you, God, for this and so much more. Oh, and see there? Hey, we're in the flow, guys. Speak your word and hold out your hand. Have we seen it? Yes. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I actually love this part. I was pointing at Vernon for closing song, but this is our prayer box, and just everybody, whether it might be a dark night of the soul prayer or whether it's leading edge, we are here to treat for you individually, collectively, and I love this time where we share it together. So I'm just going to check, see if there's anything special in here today. Practicing as we practice and knowing as we know. Simply, directly, and with conviction. The 5 steps of treatment. Honoring every realization, silently or spoken, that is in this room right here, right now. I recognize the one life that is every form, every feeling, every dynamic, and every dimension. And as I recognize it as the all that is all, only love and only law, I am that I am, as is each person here present to this word. I am that I am, unified in mind, heart, and soul. And being so aligned, I realize in my experience right here and right now the truth made manifest according to the word of the heart in this moment, in this unfolding now. And in so knowing that it's done even before we've asked, with gratitude paid forward, thank you, presence of life, for all that is good and more. And I release it, I let it be, and so it is. And if you would like to stand and join us for our closing song, here again, you'll catch the words. And this is a song, this is for all of us, so kind of turn and catch your neighbor.